rocky start, but we had a crash. But it seems like we recovered from the crash so quickly that it seems like we were able to hold the channel open. So we didn't have to change the channel, at least not on YouTube. I'm not sure on Facebook, which I'm checking right now to see how many starts we've had. And it seems like on Facebook, we held the channel open long enough as well. So great. We are here, folks. Welcome aboard. AVQ, Peggy Lopez, Michael Ratnen. ¿Cómo están todos mis amigos? ¿Están aquí? Welcome aboard. Anyhow, we're going to get started right away. Let's go ahead and get started right away. Michael said, raw story, Trump's Mar-a-Lago defense is like an arsonist claiming he was just playing with fire. Trump said during the Mesa, Arizona rally, I had a small number of boxes in storage at Mar-a-Lago guarded by Secret Service and my people and everybody. I mean, it's safe. There's no crime. It's not a crime. Huh? What are you talking about? And they should give me immediately back everything that they've taken from me because it's mine. Legal analyst Elliot Williams rebutted. That is what prosecutors would call a confession for a crime. And the mere fact that you think it's not a crime doesn't change the fact. Look, I can burn your house down, and if I burn your house down and say, you know what, I didn't commit arson, I was just playing with fire at your house, it's still an act of arson, whatever. We don't even need the people to point out. Trump is confessing to the crime of stealing government property. The fact that documents he stole are still classified as top secrets is just an exacerbating point for sentencing. Trump's strategy right now seems to be a prediction. Rile up the conservative base so that when Trump is arrested, multiple acts of violence are perpetrated on his behalf, and authorities have to choose whether to let Trump go in order to quell the violence. Yep, that's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do. That is what they're trying to do. Second one, The Guardian. Tulsi Gabbard quits Democratic Party. It's about time. In a video announcement posted to Twitter, she said, I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that is under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism. In 2012, Gabbard became the first Samoan American voting member and Hindu elected to Congress, but her views have often sat uncomfortably with the Democratic Party. In 2016, the then Congresswoman from Hawaii announced she was leaving the Democratic National Committee to endorse Bernie Sanders for president. What the hell happened to Tulsi Gabbard? I mean, she made a good job in supporting Bernie Sanders, but she went crazy for quite some time. Repeated from yesterday, Alabama Daily News, Tuberville, Dems back reparations for those whom do the crime. And I thank you for putting it there. Follow the link, but I'm covering that today, my dear Rednan. How are the rest of my peeps? Unless you have something in there, let's see. Yes, that is racist. Yeah, I think I'm covering that. We can get back to your particular narrative afterwards, sir. What we got here? May Wood says, how are we all today? Melanie Keelan says, hi, everybody. Good evening. Lee Grant is in the house. Hi, brother Lee. Welcome aboard. May Wood says, Michael Rodney, yes, it's kind of racist, isn't it? Kinda? You think? Yvette Avery Herod says, PDR Posse, good afternoon. Lee Grant says, congrats to Tulsi. But I bet you don't want her in the Republican Party either. Tulsi is correct about Dem's woke position. I don't know what woke means. To be enlightened. Is there something wrong with being enlightened? I don't think so. Now, look, don't get me wrong now. Democrats have issues, but specifically, I like some neoliberals have issues, some progressives have issues, Republicans have issues. We talk about them. I talk about the truths about progressives and being just like the rest of the country. And I gave stories about being at Netroots, etc. Robert Davenport is in the house. Daniel Ledo says, has intersectionality reached its limit? Muslims shut down Dearborn School Board meeting over disgusting sexual material in the schools. Okay. I don't know what that means. Tulsi is smart, and guess what? Reality-based and common sense. I bet you don't say that when you learn all that Tulsi stands for. You know, remember, she supported Bernie Sanders, and you know why? Because of the policies. But you want to fool yourself? Anyway, there was a talking about woke, etc. I want to go ahead and play that one because I left brother Rodnan hanging yesterday when I said, hey, I have it. So let's go ahead and talk about Tuberville. Let's talk about Tuberville. Let me see if I can find the video. I want to put the video first because I consider him a criminal. So let's go ahead and do him. Many parents put the health of their kids, the success of their kids, and I'm speaking specifically of Black parents, but other parents as well, because a bad behavior knows no ethnicity, race, etc. Tuberville, the senator from Alabama, said, I want you to listen to this piece because it makes some irate. For me, what it does is it opens the eyes of what the Republican Party has become. Because Tuberville is not just somebody. He was placed there, he was encouraged there, and he feels entitled to say as he pleases whatever comes out of his mouth, including long-held tropes that are all so false.
Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville hit the stage of former President Trump's rally in Nevada last night.
They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. Bullshit. They are not owed that.
They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. There's no other way to read that other than Black people want reparations and they do the crime.
Tommy Tuberville can go to hell. He made tens of millions of dollars off unpaid Black men as a football coach. He literally has the stature he has because people went out there and assumed the risk and incurred the risk of concussions, playing hard and everything. And then for him to give these racist tropes, I mean, it infuriates me. But this is a large swath of the Republican Party that they have to deal with that they've never done.
Yeah, I mean, they just flat out, he talking about Black people. He should man up and say it. American descendants of slaves do deserve reparations in this country. They absolutely do. But for him to equate a whole group of people as being criminal, you know what's criminal? Allowing people to languish in poverty, not supporting policies that will lift people up. That is what's criminal.
I love what Nina Turner did there. What Jabari did was fine, but I love what Nina Turner did there. Because first of all, that trope that, Black folk are allowed, or, the progressives turn their face on Black folks committing crime because they support reparations. And since reparation isn't given, that's sort of a form of reparations, criminality. That is the most asinine statement one could make. Some break it down just as I said there. Others just go ahead and think, criminality exists in certain places, right? But we fail to actually see where criminality really is. She comes out, Nina, and says perfectly, hey, if you want to know what's criminal is not ensuring that people who are in need are served. But you know what I always like to remind folks? Imagine this. This guy has the nerve, after using the bodies of Black folk, this guy has the nerve to criminalize those that supposedly served him. But and he also has the nerve to say, and reparations, they don't deserve any of that. Where was the criminality in taking free labor? Wasn't that thievery? Wasn't that criminality? Where was the criminality in the murders and of the lynching, etc., that occurred? Isn't that criminality? And they're not owed anything? Let me tell you something. Sometime when people speak, what they're doing is simply looking in a mirror and watching the reflections of themselves. Because I tell you, the criminality that I see most often are the types of criminalities that rarely gets mentioned. And when gets mentioned, they try to sweep it under the door. But it's the one that causes the most damage to human beings, bar none. Brett Favre's $1 million for doing absolutely nothing is the person who steals a candy bar out of a store, who steals a carton of cigarettes out of the store, who's a petty thief. His crime pales in comparison to what Brett Favre did with what the governor of Alabama did, or the governor of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, I should say. What you find in the years go beyond what they've done to human bodies, that's criminal. You know, they like to make it believe like, oh, the gang shootings or the shootings that you see that, by the way, are going down across the country. There's some savagery in that. It is so terrible. What about the savagery in bringing all these folks over here in cramped ships, many of them dying? What about the savagery of the whips and wails that many of these folks had to endure? What about the savagery of boiling some of these folks alive? What about the savagery of cutting some of these guys' pelotas off? What about the savagery of cutting their arms off when they were disobedient? What about the savagery of having them drink you know what? One might even come to the conclusion like, hell, the teachers weren't all that good because these guys, in as much as they're using guns and killing, I guess they weren't as good as you in finding ways to kill and maim with pain. I wish more of these reporters, I mean, Nina Turner touched on it. When Nina Turner said, the criminality is when you leave people to die. The criminality is what Brett Favre did. But I wish they took it further. The criminality occurred a long time ago. And that criminality has never been brought to justice. And the effects of that criminality has never been paid forward. Absolutely so, folks. Absolutely so. Just the dad, welcome aboard. Eric Hayes, I think E2247, welcome aboard. Para ver. Lee Grant Spitz said, speaking of woke, the LA City Council is going nuts over a racist remark made by a Hispanic councilwoman about a black kid. Yeah, I read the article and I listened to her speak, and it is amazing, right? Because I love the way they like to classify Latinos as if Latinos is one race or whatever. So, I mean, don't you think that a white Latino or a light passing Latino have the same prejudices that, let's say, an Anglo-white American has? Of course they do. I lived in Panama where there are blue-eyed blonde Panamanians. Some of them good, some of them bad. I mean, some of them, you know, it's a human thing, man. So was she supposed to lose her job? You bet your life. Did you hear the things that she was saying about splitting the county and this and complaining about a particular a white guy? He's with the blacks. No, he's supposed to say he's with the humans, all humans, you know? Oh, God. I thought it was amusing. She needs to lose her job. Unfortunately, also, she's a supporter of Bass. It's amazing how power works, but that's for another show. Let's see. Eric Hayes says, Bernie is pushing every issue that would make a tangible benefit to the people. And you think he's a hack? You're a bad joke. Oh, that is Michael Rudden talking to Eric. Eric and these guys don't understand humanity if it doesn't immediately abide by their ideology. And that is what we are hoping to do here, to let folks modify their ideology so that in the process it becomes humane. In other words, by humane meaning it betters human beings. It gives human beings opportunity. It takes away the same things deep in our soul, in the soul of from the founders and elsewhere, to be selfish, to think and not put another person above another to enrich themselves. You know. Now, CSAC is concerned about slavery. He's talking about more slavery in Africa than ever before. To which I remind CSAC that he's a slave. He's a slave to an ideology, a slave to the corporate state, which has cost him quite a bit. He's a slave. But it's hard when you perfected antiseptic slavery, as we have in the United States of America and other Western nations that don't support democratic socialism. It is hard for folks to understand the perfection within the corporate slavery, the perfect modal in which it is executed. It's hard for people to get it. And again, it took them years to perfect it, right? It took decades, centuries to perfect how to make Mike CSAC be a slave, not realize he's one, and continue to support that which has enslaved him. I mean, decades of psychological doings, right? But you know what? That's why you have Politics Done Right and other good programs that slowly try to plant seeds in one's mind that gets them away from an enslaved mentality. And that's what we try to do here. We try to do this as honestly as possible, as truthfully, well, not as truthfully as possible, simply truthfully. But anyhow, I want you to listen to something from, because it plays right into what Mike CSAC's problem is. Let's listen to author McGee, Heather McGee. I love her. Check this out. We'll then take it on the other side. Heather McGee, former Heather McGee, former Demas head and now a trustee, and the author of The Sum of Us, What Racism Costs Everyone and How We Can Prosper Together. She appeared with Alex Wagner on MSNBC for an interview. And I found this interview to be so powerful. And there is one particular statement that she made that I want you guys to listen to because it's prescient. And if you can understand it in detail, there is so much further we as a society, we as a unified American society could move to. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
There's a huge amount of political and therefore economic profit to be made by convincing white voters that anything that is good for other Americans, even and including them, is somehow a threat, right? The idea, the zero-sum idea that we can't all progress together, that in fact, progress for people of color must be a threat to white people. So take the student loans, for example. Who benefits from an historic up to $20,000 in student loan debt being canceled? Well, 20 million borrowers, the vast majority of whom are working and middle-class people, the majority of whom are white. Does it attack the racial wealth disparity? Yeah. Why? Not because black people are just so lazy that we borrow a lot, but because of a racial wealth divide that was created by public policy. A racial wealth divide that means that today a black college graduate has less wealth on average than a white high school dropout. So the bottom line here is that these policies, the idea of having voting rights in the country where politicians don't pick their voters, but voters pick their politicians. The idea of having affordable college, it's good for everyone. Yeah. And yet conservatives want to break a working class multiracial coalition to make white voters side with their color instead of their class. They want to profit economically from that rigged political system. And so they keep sort of hammering this point, this lie of the zero sum, that we can't all be beneficiaries of government in the public interest.
There are two very important points that she makes there. Conservative leadership attempting to have people vote their color and not their class. That's one thing. The other one is that the the difference in wealth expressed on a racial basis is directly a result of public policy, redlining among them, some farmers being able to get loans while others couldn't. Same with student loans, etc. So all the nature of this entire process is systemic. And it is one thing that the Republican leadership doesn't want its folks to understand, because they want to always have that tool. In other words, if we can keep you looking at the other person, those others that look differently from you, and somehow reflect the problem as being theirs, as opposed to the reality that we are in a class boat, really, in which the rest of us continuously serve the few, and as the few screw up and gets into problems, we pay that excess pain to solve their problems. Again, let's look at today's problem, right? Inflation is not something that is really needed. Do we have spot shortages? Yes. Do we have some supply chain issues because of plants not being open or shipping not being open across the oceans from the people that are manufacturing our products? Yes. But who are the ones responsible for all of that? We are the ones who decided to manufacture at all costs overseas so that we wouldn't have to pay our local folks a living wage. We are the ones who decide that we are going to create something known as just-in-time inventory so that as soon as the product gets here, it's ready to be sold or placed into a machine or whatever, instead of keeping inventory the way we did before to save a few more bucks for the corporatocracy, the shareholders, etc. It is they who decided that they weren't going to, since the 1979, when we've been talking about transitioning from fossil fuels onto green energy. In fact, their God, Ronald Reagan, removed solar panels from the roof because he wanted nothing to do with it, to give countries like China the lead in photovoltaic cells, etc. So they created all these problems that manifested itself as soon as we had a pandemic. And who pays the bill? We do. All of us, right? We pay the bill in higher interest rates. We pay the bill in higher inflation, because remember, when we pay higher inflation, that money doesn't just go to for really things that cost more. It simply goes into the pockets of those who raise the prices. That's a dirty little secret they never tell you. And when we pay, and instead of forcing those people to not have the ability to gouge us, the Fed says, okay, the way we are going to control that is let supply and demand work. We will go ahead and increase your interest rates so that you, the American people, have to stop buying so that we can force them to reduce their prices or keep their prices steady. In other words, we don't have the pelotas to go ahead and tell the private sector, you won't do that because you're hurting most Americans. We're going to make Americans feel further pain in giving them more money as they get their prices steady. So this zero-sum gain is it's a very important concept for us to understand. If we come together and start to work together, as opposed to allowing them to create these fallacies as expressed in the sum of us, where they make forgiving student loans something of envy for those who didn't decide to go to college, where they do all these things in the attempt to separate us so that we cannot put our attention, assign our eyes to those who are actually screwing us all. Exactly right. To those who are screwing us all. Folks, please remember, this show needs your support. Let me go ahead and play our support message. Thank you for reminding me, El Señor Davenport. Alistair Waters, I don't think I completely saluted you. Welcome aboard, Alistair. How are you doing today, my friend? Here we go. I think it's here we go. Politics done right depends on you to keep doing what we do. What do? We make sure to keep, number one, the internet seeded with blogs and information to counter the right and to present what progressives represent for the benefit of us all to everybody so that it's not misread, misled by any other entity. We make sure and populate that internet with blogs, with videos, with all these other things to make sure that we are informed and to counter everything that you normally hear that are lying at the right. We also make sure to create articles in magazines, articles in newspapers all around the country to ensure, again, that our message gets out there. Last but not least, we also write books. As you see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom, How to Make America Utopia, are two of the many books that I've written on these issues. So please support us in one of many ways. Numero uno, you can support us at PayPal, either one time or monthly. Go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. You can support us on Patreon. That is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. You can support us by becoming a part of our YouTube channel, going to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, or you can support us in many other forms that you can find at politicsdoneright.com/support. Be sure to visit our store, politicsdoneright.com/store, and get our books at politicsdoneright.com/books. Politics Done Right depends on you to keep doing what we do. What do? Thank you so kindly, guys. And don't forget, please subscribe to my new reconfigured, what is it called again? Podcast. You can get that right here. Please subscribe. It's say you're going to give Egberto a coffee a month. It's at anchor.fm/EgbertoWillies/subscribe. Anchor. I need to create a shortcut for that so that I can say it easy. So later on, I'm going to change that link so that it's a better link that you can reach. But anchor.fm/EgbertoWillies/subscribe. It's only a coffee a month. Can you do that for Politics Done Right? Get me a few hundred, a few thousand of those, and we can start getting some help around here, and these eyes can get a little bit more than 3 or 4 hours. Well, actually, I've broken down to, I try to get 5 hours now, but you know how that goes. Anyhow, so let's get busy. Did I put that link? Yeah, please go to that link and subscribe if you will. You would really help us continue to be able to do all of this. So there are a lot of ways. I gave you a lot of links to support the program. All right. Let's see. I saw a message that kind of tickled me. Tom C., welcome to the show, my brother. Haven't seen you. And let's see. Kathy Courtney, here's the link. I'm going to put it in. Please subscribe to the podcast and give it to your girlfriends and in the group. Tell them that they get a whole lot of value, not only from the podcast, but having them on the list. We can reach them. And there is the link, Kathy Courtney. It's anchor.fm/EgbertoWillies/subscribe. It's a coffee a month. I'm pretty sure nobody will have a problem with that, saying this man works hard enough for us to go do it. That would be, I would appreciate. So kindly, we need to get busy on doing these things. All right. Thank you very much, Kathy. And give it to your girlfriends. Tell them to support a good cause. This is what we need if we're going to move forward. And I've enhanced it with all the videos, the outtakes, all that good stuff is right there. And they can watch it on Spotify. They can just bring up their phone on Spotify, and it's on Spotify, where all my other blogs are all over iTunes, whatever. This particular one with all this stuff is on Spotify. All right. Exacto Mundo. Let's go ahead and continue. Let's say, Michael Runner says, Egberto, if you don't get a good 8 hours sleep, I'm a wreck the next day. I often wake up in the middle of my sleep, then crash again after a half an hour. If I get 8 hours for some reason, Michael, for some reason, I get sleepy again. Don't ask me why. It just happens that way. I got a lot of videos that I want you guys to see. So here's the one where I want you to see this one with the panelists on voter, what do I say? On voter enthusiasm, because it's going to be an issue that we got to fix in the next 3 weeks. Check it out. Should we really be talking about voter enthusiasm right now? Aren't things at a position where everybody who can move is going to want to vote? Well, that's the non-cynical way of thinking things through, right? The cynical way is saying nothing's going to change. Why go out there and vote if it makes no difference when I have to find a babysitter or somebody to take care of my kids? We have to make it worth people's while to go vote. We got to tell them things are going to change and ensure that they change. And the words that we should be using should be just that. We should give them a reason why they must go out there and vote. But, right now we have folks that are very concerned. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Listen to President Biden's senior advisor, former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, expressing concern about voter enthusiasm among Democrats in Georgia.
Just as a voter, I can tell you I am very concerned at the lack of enthusiasm in our state right now. I don't feel and see the enthusiasm that I think voters across Georgia should have right now. And I know that oftentimes in midterm elections, people don't turn out to vote. I hope that won't be the case this year in Georgia.
She's talking about Democratic voters, to be clear.
Yeah, no, and I think she's sounding the alarm just as many people have been doing, but it ain't just Atlanta. It's Philadelphia in the race in Pennsylvania. It's Cleveland in the race with Tim Ryan and J.D. Vance. It's Orlando and Miami in Val Deming's race. And so Democrats have to do a better job, particularly, and I can't wait for my phone to blow up after I say this, but particularly with black men. You just can't come to black men after Labor Day and say, come vote for us every 2 years. There has to be a more direct, engaged approach with black male voters who, by all intents and purposes, after African-American women, are the second largest turnout base. And that's just something that we haven't done forever. And it drives me crazy.
So you're in Ohio. Tell us.
I am. And I'm amen in what Bakari is saying. The Democratic Party often leaves out the whole swath of black men. And black men matter too. Their votes matter. And they are very much an integral part of the success of the Democratic Party. And so Bottoms is absolutely right. The enthusiasm gap is there, and we got to do a better job.
Absolutely so. But, let me tell you, I sit down and watch how I'm in a very red area. And I watch how right through the year, it's not near the election, how Republicans nurture their voters. It's not a lot of them compared to Democrats and real independently thinking independents, but they nurture their voters. They're in contact with them. They're touching them. And the churches are there to nurture. Every civic organization I see out here find a way to keep that camaraderie. That is why, as a collective, they can see progressives. They're able to convince their pew that progressives are in fact some sort of a caricature. You can't just go to people when you want their vote and say, "Hey, we want save the country. I need you to save the country now from going into fascism and all of that." But they have nothing. To a lot of these folks, whether you're a fascist country, a democratic country, a communist country, the cops are still beating your head down into the ground. So who matters? Here's the funny thing about it. Their votes are needed, right? Their votes are needed to keep that whole left and middle flank happy. But when the results are in, if they win, rarely do they come back. Not just say thank you, but make it worth your while. This is what we're going to do for you going forward. So I suggest in the next 3.5 weeks for Democrats to do just that. Make promises and fulfill them. Tell them, give us a chance. Come vote. We will make it worth your while. and Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, and several others, they have policies that if you guys put these folks back into office, it's ready to fly. So, folks, get with the program. Yes, I can understand many who want to stand on the sidelines because it doesn't really matter which government goes for them. But I can tell you, when you move forward completely right to the fascist state, you will live to regret it. So, folks, please go out there and vote. There you go. And there's an asset. By the way, this is a great point of agreement between Mike Cisak, one of our right wingers. Thank you, Mike, for pointing that out. That you see, that's a commonality we have. And believe it or not, the things that progressive stands for is what will prevent those kinds of forfeitures from occurring. That is what occurs when you have a corporate state move an economic system that then allows the taking away of your assets by hook or crook. And Kathy Courtney, let me tell you, I am positive about encouraging people to vote. I'm positive about. In fact, we had John Cotter, who is in the entire Southeast area, is encouraging people to vote. They're running around the county, making sure that we are going to be a voting county. So no, I have hope, and this is not despair at all. But I have something special for you, Kathy. You're going to love this one. And let me tell you why you're going to love this one. Because this has to do with real Medicare. You know what I've been talking about? Medicare Advantage. You know, I've been talking about nobody should be signing up for Medicare Advantage. They should not sign up for Medicare Advantage because it's just taking your money, giving it to, it's using our taxpayer dollars to fund private corporations who are giving us less. Here's one commentary of it I want to play you, and then we'll continue on the other side. Should we really be talking about voter enthusiasm right now? Or things at a wrong one where everybody...
I'm Rick Campbell.
Hey, Rick, let me tell you something. You were listening to the show today, and we were talking about Medicare Advantage. For a long time, I've been trying to give people reasons not to take Medicare Advantage. And coming into the studio and talking to you just had a simple message that I think every single American need to hear. So tell us, what kind of Medicare do you have?
I have Medicare A, Medicare B, and Medicare D, the drug plan. Mm-hmm. I do not have Medicare Advantage.
Why did you? I know that there was likely a very hard sell to give you Medicare Advantage, correct?
Somewhat. I would say not for me as much as others. Mm-hmm. I happen to be lucky to have a wife who reads small print, reads a lot, and she was able to help guide me. And I have friends on Medicare, and it helped a lot that I could bounce ideas off of them. And that's why we decided I was all set to go on Medicare Advantage. I figured that was the best thing until we talked around and found out that it's not that much of an advantage.
Okay, tell us why it's not much of an advantage.
Well, first off, or maybe the main thing is, two of my biggest fears as I get older are having heart problems or having cancer. Mm-hmm. The heart problems, get that taken care of almost anywhere. Cancer, MD Anderson is out. They are not in the program. And if I'm here and ever get cancer, to me, that's the best place to go. I want to be able to go there, and I want my insurance to cover it.
You know what, Rick, what a lot of folks don't understand is, we have so many people that always talk about socialized medicine is terrible. What they don't realize is corporate medicine. If socialized medicine is terrible, corporate medicine is fatal. And yes. That is something they don't understand. And they don't get that in Medicare Advantage, you are told what doctor you can see. You are told what medicines you can use. You are told what hospitals you can go to. The plan that you have, tell me a little bit about it.
I'm wide open. I can go anywhere. And not only that, I didn't mention this, I have a Medigap. Mm-hmm. My medical care is practically free, not totally free. I won't say free. It's covered. I mean, I'm paying
you paid a lot of taxes. You paid Medicare taxes when you were working.
So definitely it's not.
It's not for you. Already paid for it.
Right. I paid for it, and I'm still paying for it. To some extent. But I just felt like the absolute best way to go was to be open, because I like to travel. If I leave the country, I'm not covered. I'm covered for emergencies with Medicare only, not normal stuff. If I leave the state with the Medicare Advantage plan, I'm very likely not covered at all.
Right.
If I leave Houston, I may not be covered.
Right.
So I felt like the Medicare itself was the absolute best way to go for full coverage.
Well, any closers that you want to, because I think Americans need to understand the fraud that is Medicare Advantage. So what else can you tell them to urge them? Please, it may cost you a little, it may seem like it costs you a little bit up front, but the peace of mind is a lot less expensive.
All I can really say is stuff that's cheap and free comes with a price. And I think you pay a high price for those low premiums on Medicare Advantage. And it's just my opinion, because I felt what works for me, and what worked for me is definitely plain Medicare and not having to look at something for zero deductibles, zero monthly payments, just so I can get on somebody's insurance plan so they can get money from the government and not give me any coverage. So basically, I just feel comfortable. And if I can say, I'm all for, as they call socialized medicine, I like to think of it as single payer.
Exactly.
And it's not in the Constitution, but I think it's a human right. And to be priced out of medical care is just an abomination. And so, fortunately, I lived to be 65 and plus at this point. So I got into the government care, and I'm really, really excited about it.
Thank you so kindly for telling folks what they really need to hear.
Thank you.
All right, Eric, Mike Cisak says, so it's obvious Egberto hates it when people have a choice. He'd rather have politicians dictate what we have. Let's make a correction there, Mike. I want you to sit back. I want you to forget your ideology for a second. And please, I beg of you, listen to this. There is Medicare Part A, B, and D, which is hospitalization, regular Medicare for seeing the doctor, and drug plan. If you want eyes and all of that kind of stuff, there are waivers you can, but not waivers, additionals you can buy for that. And you can also, and which are fairly inexpensive. And you can also buy something called Medigap to cover the 80-20 gap in Medicare. That is standard Medicare, right? Everybody has some input into it. You pay a bit, the government pays most, but everybody has skin in the game. Medicare Advantage is, Eric doesn't like that I call it a fraud. It is by definition a fraud. They want to say we can do it more efficiently, which is not what they do. The way and there's an article right up in the Washington Post or New York Times where calculated the fraud, the billions of dollars in fraud. They take every person, mark that person as sicker than they really are, collect more money for them, then restrict what that person can say. Going back to your initial statement, Mr. Cisak, you said Egberto doesn't want people to have choice. Medicare, standard Medicare is choice. Going to have Medicare Advantage takes away your choices. I had a manager of the station tell me that he is going to have to come out of pocket $3,000 a month because this particular drug he needs, his Medicare Advantage plan does not cover it. However, it is covered by standard Medicare. Let's stop for a second. Let's get it even more real. You talk about choice. Somebody on standard Medicare can go to any doctor that they want to. They can go and take the medicines that the doctor prescribes. They can go to any hospitals. If they travel between states, they're still covered. If they travel out of state, they're covered. If they're covered, start out of country, they're covered. With Medicare Advantage, only if you are in an emergency will they pay for it. Otherwise, you better get your butt home to your district and get covered. Medicare Advantage is a fraud. it's operated as a fraud. I just gave you the example. So, Egberto, you admit you don't like competition, the Advantage. Advantage, again, there's no competition in Advantage. Different companies cherry pick the market, and they tell you what drugs you can take, what hospitals you can go to, and what doctors you can see. Standard Medicare says you choose. The person who is on standard Medicare chooses the doctor they see, chooses the hospital they want to go to, chooses the medicine. The doctors for them tell them the medicines that they want, and they don't have the restrictions of Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage also costs more than standard Medicaid because the overhead of standard Medicare is just 2 to 3%, while of Medicare Advantage, they have to have all these other fees. Mike Cisak, again, just forget the ideology and think math. The only choice Egberto wants is for women to murder their babies. Again, you know that doesn't make any sense. Don't go into that modal. Again, the only folks get choice as they get older are those who choose Medicare Standard. If you go for Medicare Advantage, they tell you who you can see. Don't you ever forget it. And remember, if you're a traveler, if you're traveling to visit your father, if you're traveling to visit your kids, remember, you may not be covered except for an emergency. Kathy Courtney said, no reach about 28,000 of us in Kelsey-Seybold clinic system. Just one example, we're forced to choose Kelsey Care Advantage or not being to continue to be the clinic system we'd been in for years. There you go, Courtney. There you go, Kathy. Again, it is so important for folks up front. And if you decide afterwards that Medicare Advantage isn't working for you, and you say, okay, I'm going to go back to the standard Medicare, what happens then is you cannot afford the Medigap, because when you sign up for Medicare in the beginning, Medigap has to take you irrespective of pre-existing condition. If you go to Medicare Advantage and try to go back to Medicare, forget it. Medigap, you probably won't be able to afford unless you get back now when you're not sick. It is so. Medicare is not good enough, but it's better. What we want is health care for all. Kathy Courtney is one of our heroes that's out there fighting for Medicare for all in the form of health care for all. Mike Cisak, in regular Medicare, you can only see those who are approved by Medicare, not a choice. Look, no. Let's get it clear. Doctors decide. You will be seen by competency. In other words, you can't be a quack like Dr. Oz and say you're going to accept Medicare, right? So you are protected from the quacks like Dr. Oz or other quacks on the market who could kill you, who could kill your husbands, who could kill your mother, who could kill your father. That's what it's all about. Regulations. Regulations to protect us all. All right. I think I have time for that. Let me do the 3-minute Jen Psaki. Yeah, I can do Jen Psaki now. Let's go ahead and do Jen Psaki. And I'll then call up. Nope, I'll do the Ohio thing. That is better. Let's go with Ohio. The Ohio debate was epic. I tell you something. Imagine if all Democratic candidates, whether progressives or not so progressives as it is, Tim Ryan is not the most progressive politician there is at all. In fact, I don't even think you'd hear any kind of words come out like that. But we give him a pass because, well, there's something about Ohio that kind of forget that the values that provide sustenance to them, the values that really are needed in that state are really progressive values altogether. But well, that's another story. But check out how Tim Ryan really dug into JD Vance. And JD just looked like a deer in headlights. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. More Democrats need to follow this modal. Check it out.
Just a few weeks ago in Youngstown, on the stage, Donald Trump said to J.D. Vance, all you do is kiss my ass to get my support. He said that. That's bad, because that means J.D. Vance is going to do whatever he wants. Mitch McConnell's given him $40 million. He's going to do what he wants. And Peter Thiel gave him $15 million. He's going to do what he wants. And here's the thing that's most troubling about this lack of courage is that after Trump took J.D. Vance's dignity from him on the stage in Youngstown, J.D. Vance got back up on stage and started shaking his hand, take a picture, saying, hey, aren't we having a great time here tonight? I don't know anybody I grew up with. I don't know anybody I went to high school with that would allow somebody to take their dignity like that and then get back up on stage. We need leaders who have courage to take on their own party. And I've proven that. And he was called an ass kisser by the former president. I'm for Ohio. I don't kiss anyone's ass like him. Ohio needs an ass kicker, not an ass kisser.
Now tell me if that isn't some real, I mean, normally we always say, you know, Democrats take a knife to a gunfight. They take a knife to a gun battle. Well, this time he took a bazooka to a gunfight, which is what we're supposed to have, especially when you're in the right. I tell you what, Tim Ryan may pull out Ohio, and he may actually do it quite a bit more effective than others we're expecting to win, but that are playing the timid game. Again, Tim Ryan is not the most, like I said before, Tim Ryan is not the most progressive. He's not even like Sherrod Brown, who really knows how to be very progressive in a red state. But you know what? The guy might do it. The guy might do it. We are at the end of the program today, folks. Please remember, I'm going to just put 2 more links out there. I'm going to ask you, I want to put the graphic back up for one quick second, because this one, Mike Cisak said something very, very smart with respect to we need to stop the government from seizing people's properties. Again, the economic system has screwed so many. And he points out that forfeitures exceed burglary. And I know you have a farm, Brother Cisak. Let's see. Robert Davenport says, Senator Scott from Florida is proof that Medicare fraud is big business. They simply pay a fine less than what they stole, just the cost of doing crooked business. You hit the nail on the head. Maywood says Lee Grant Oz is a quack, which is true. Rudden said the same. Alistair Waters said Ryan owned the debate, which was true. But here's the deal. This forfeiture exceeding burglary says a whole lot. The state has become the thief. The state that is run by the whom again? The private sector in some fashion. You know, when you lose your home, you lose all these different things to these corporations. Sad day in hell. Right? Sad day. Anyhow, folks, please support the program. We can't do this at all without you. So what I want to do is ask you so kindly consider, first of all, consider supporting us via our PayPal account. Here is our PayPal. Consider as well supporting us through our membership, subscribe to our podcast. And here it is. My name is anchor.fm/Egberto Willis/subscribe. Thank you so kindly. My name is, thank you, Kathy. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please.